So tell us a little bit about you, about
Sure.
where you came from and where this inner voice comes from. And I guess the most important thing, and maybe put this at the top, uh, where your work uh, inspires people, or where your work helps people live a better life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd start with that specifically because that's how it came from my life personally, is like the aim of my work is very simple. It's to help people be more optimistic, which is a goal that who wouldn't want to be more optimistic, right? We all have things that are painful, that feel confusing. Who wouldn't want to be able to live amidst that and say, oh, it's all good. I still believe good things can happen. So that's my goal. And that's a vague, ambitious goal, of course. But for me, it's very simple. Like the way to be more optimistic is you change the way you talk to yourself and about your presence in life, your experiences in life. It boils down to emotional vocabulary for me. What are the literal words that you use to speak to yourself in reaction to what you feel in your life? So to answer your question, I mean, so I'm 37 now. I had a whole career before this. I worked in advertising technology sales for a long time in Chicago. Really enjoyed that. I was pretty introverted and didn't really have a strong center of like truth in life. I didn't have opinions of my own. I felt, a little bit lost in my 20s. But I entered this sales role. I started as an account executive at this company. I worked my way up to a regional vice president. I really liked who I'd become as a salesperson. I always think people should try sales at some point in their life. It really teaches you a lot about yourself. But anyway, I got really good at sales and I was being promoted and making money. And I was like, it's so weird to me how I'm so certain and confident in that area of life. But as like a human, as a boyfriend, as a brother, as a son, I just didn't have a center of truth. And that really frustrated me, that I felt like I was just borrowing other people's goals and expectations and the whole thing. So my solution was very simple and kind of in a meta way now that I do it full time, is I started this podcast, New Mindset Who Dis, with the goal of forcing myself to vocalize feelings, goals, ambitions, everything. I saw it as like a mix of creative and vulnerability. And at the time in 2018, less people were podcasting and there were fewer men sharing their feelings. And so I saw it as this like vulnerable thing. And the rest is honestly history, because what I learned from the podcast, and I would basically do these short 20-minute episodes, no guests, because that was the whole thing. I didn't want to just borrow and regurgitate from other people. I wanted to be able to sit down and describe a feeling, describe an ambition, and say, where is it coming from? Is this a firsthand experience or is this a secondhand expectation that I'm borrowing? And through that, I really have come to realize what I do, which is a very practical form of mindfulness, a big umbrella term, right? To me, mindfulness has become very simple. It's the art of listening to yourself. And more importantly, and the one that I really lean into, it's the art of talking to yourself. And that's what I help people do with words and language and word choice. How do we speak to ourselves about emotions? I've found more often than not, we're using the wrong words. We're using words that are just burdened by permanence. And all those things combined, when you practice that, you are leading yourself to be more optimistic. You're talking to yourself in a kind way, in a fair way, in a way that allows for things to change. So that's the long or the short. Really, it's a passion for language. Like in college, I majored in Chinese and Arabic. And, I lived in China for a bit.
Wow.
I've been all over. And it was always interesting because I was like, and then I moved to Chicago and worked in marketing. And I was like, I guess, that was just a fun time in my life. But now looking back, it just makes sense why I've always been drawn to language. Like I took 5 years of Latin in high school. I don't know if they still teach Latin, but I was really good at it. I got all 5s on the APs and was like one of like 12 people in this class. I just always loved languages. And now looking back, it makes sense of the power of language, the energy of language.
In 1960, the average 16-year-old child or teenager had 25,000 words in his or her vocabulary because they read all the time,
right.
Maybe TV once in a while. Now it's down to 10,000. And I always think of vocabulary. The words you have is tools and fine tools. And when you only have 10,000 words, you end up using blunt instruments or sort of the language equivalent of emoticons. Whereas if you can if you have 25,000 words, if you can use a word like phlegmatic instead of tired, It conveys a completely
You
different.
sound way cooler too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's be real.
Phlegmatic sounds
Yeah.
like tired. It's
Yeah.
like phlegmy.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just reaffirming the importance of language to nuance your thoughts,
Yes.
to be able to refine what you're thinking about. So if you like that clip, there's a lot more where that came from. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.